Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Aging in Your Eyes. My name is Dr. Rani, and I'm so glad to see you all here. Thank you for spending the beginning of your year with me. And I'm going to really say something very bold right now. What you're going to learn in this next hour or so during the webinar is going to change your life forever. Yes, it will change the way you think about your vision, about your eye health. It will change the way you do your daily routine, some of your habits, hopefully, that I'll share some tips with you about your eye health that will help improve your daily habits to keep your eyes healthy. So it's a very big, bold statement, but I really think that through the course of this next hour together, you will learn a tremendous amount that will help you protect your eyes for the future. So with that being said, just a couple of very brief housekeeping items. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to go for about an hour. And again, this is a very important hour. I do hope that you will invest this hour in your eyes, in your eyesight. So please turn off all distractions. That means if you have your phone next to you, please silent the ringer. If you have other websites open, please just focus on the Zoom meeting because again, you don't want to miss, this webinar is going to be chock full of a lot of information. You don't want to miss any of it. So please, again, invest this 1 hour for your eyesight. Then another housekeeping item I just wanted to mention is that there will be time for Q&A. So the webinar is divided into basically 3 parts where I'll discuss 3 main aging eye issues. And at the end of each part, I will do a little bit of Q&A. I'll try my best to get to as many questions as I can. And at the end, I'm also going to offer more Q&A. So hopefully some of you can stay till the very end. And also as a special incentive for some of you to stay till the very end, I have a special gift for you. So please try your best to stay for the entire duration of the webinar. The last thing I just want to mention, the last housekeeping item I want to mention is that this webinar is for educational purposes only, which means that I can provide you with a lot of information, a lot of suggestions and tips, but I personally can't be your doctor through this webinar. We don't yet have a doctor-patient relationship, or I also can't do a doctor-patient relationship via this type of a group informational session. So please refrain from asking any personal questions. You can definitely ask general eye questions. I'm happy to answer those. But if it's something very specific to you, unfortunately, I cannot answer that during the webinar. I'm legally actually not able to answer that during the webinar. So just keep that in mind. And also based on the webinar, I can't specifically diagnose you with a particular condition or treat you for a particular condition, meaning I cannot prescribe during the webinar either. So that being said, I would love to begin, and just to kind of give a few introductions, I would just love to know if you can put into the chat. I see there's quite a few of you here already on board, but if you can just put into the chat where you're tuning in from. I would love to see where you're at. I myself, I'm based in New York City, which I think is the best place in the entire world, but there are many other amazing places in the world. So please just drop it into the chat where you're from, where you're tuning in from. I would love to see some of those responses. I do see some hands being raised, and unfortunately, just because of the nature of, I have a lot of windows open at once, I have the chat open, the Q&A open, I would prefer you put it into the chat rather than to raise your hand, because then I can see it a little bit easier. So the chat is disabled for some reason. I don't know why. Thank you for letting me know. I'm not sure why the chat is disabled. I had it open before. Just give me a moment. Can people see the Q&A? Can you put in, comments into the Q&A? Okay, great. So I do see some. I see, okay, Yannick is here from Jersey. Elizabeth's from Seattle. Susan's from Rockville, and let's see. Okay, so it seems like the chat's working for some people, but not for others. I'm not really sure why, but regardless, we will use the Q&A box, because I think that would probably be easier if the chat doesn't work for everyone. At least the Q&A should work for everyone. And unfortunately, I don't think that you can see each other's answers in the Q&A, but maybe I'll have my staff kind of look into it to see what's going on with the chat and see if we can get that working during the course of the webinar. But I don't want to spend any more time on that. I really want to launch into some of this information here. So let's begin. Okay, hold on one second. There is a lot of technical issues I'm having right now. I don't know why. I really apologize. This new platform is supposed to make things easier for me, but there's always a learning curve with things like this. So, okay. So are you in the right place? Should you be here for this webinar, Aging and Your Eyes? Well, I just put this together because a lot of people had reached out to my office asking, should I participate in the webinar? So basically, the webinar is geared for people who are over the age of 35, mainly women, but of course, men can benefit from this information as well. The webinar is also geared for people who've been suffering with eye symptoms. For example, if you've had eye irritation, burning, redness, dryness, tearing, then yes, what you're going to learn today in the webinar will help you. Also, if you've had other symptoms like trouble reading fine print, I will address that as well. There's actually a whole section on that. So there's a lot of great information about that. If you've developed eye strain from being on a screen all day, which many of my patients have, yes, this webinar will help you as well. If you have light sensitivity, whether it's from, again, computer use or maybe migraine, this webinar will help you. And then the bottom line is, anyone who values their eyes can benefit from the information I'm going to share in this webinar today. It's really kind of an all-inclusive type of webinar. If you want to be proactive about your eye health and you're willing to do what it takes to put in the effort to invest in your eyes, to keep them healthy, to take those actionable steps that I'm going to be sharing today, you will benefit. So again, I want to thank you for being here because it's really a testament to how much you want to be proactive about your health. And I know we're starting the new year. What better time to start with some new routines, new habits to help you support your eyes in 2023 and beyond. So again, thank you for being here. So let me, oh my goodness here. Okay. So just a brief introduction to who I am. Some of you may know me, some of you may not yet know me. My name is Dr. Rani Banik. My full name is Rudrani Banik, and I'm a board certified ophthalmologist. I'm also a fellowship trained neuro-ophthalmologist, and I have a private practice based in New York City. I'm the founder and medical director of Envision Health NYC, and I'm also an associate professor of ophthalmology at Mount Sinai Medical School in New York City, where I teach and I do my research. And then I've been working for over 24 years. So that does date me a little bit, but I've seen a lot. I've been around, I've seen a lot. I've taken care of a lot of various different kinds of eye issues. I would say I've pretty much seen almost all of what can happen with vision. Now, the other interesting part of my training is that I'm dually trained in integrative and functional medicine. So I'm certified in functional medicine through Institute for Functional Medicine. And you may not be familiar with what functional medicine is, but it's a way to approach health and chronic disease by investigating the root causes of diseases. And I focus on eye diseases as part of my practice, but functional medicine can be applied to many other different types of health issues. But my focus is on eye health. And what I do is I use that type of a root cause approach to figure out what the problem is and address the root cause rather than just to put a Band-Aid on the problem. So I really try to figure out, what is it? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Is it a toxin? Is it something else in the environment? Could it be some kind of infection that was never diagnosed that's causing the problem? Is it oxidative stress? There are many, many potential underlying root causes that can be uncovered, especially when it comes to eye health. And the next question is, how do I treat these kinds of eye issues using a functional medicine approach? Well, the foundation, I really believe, is nutrition and lifestyle. I think for eye health, that is the number one thing that all patients should focus on, is what they're eating and their lifestyle choices to keep their eyes healthy. And as part of my approach, I also use, in addition to nutritional therapeutic diet plans, I also use botanicals, essential oils sometimes, lifestyle modification, sometimes even supplements, but not necessarily for everyone. So it really is a very personalized approach. Now, I've been very fortunate to be able to share my approach. I call it an integrative approach because it takes the best of traditional medicine plus functional medicine and it puts it together. So I've been very fortunate to share this approach on many media channels, Good Morning America, New York Times, many TV programs. And I've also been a guest on many podcasts trying to get that word out there that this is really my mission statement here. My mission statement is that vision is a priceless gift. Many of us take it for granted. We should not take it for granted. And what we should do is instead protect and preserve our vision, because once something happens, once something goes wrong with our eyes, in many cases, unfortunately, it is irreversible. And the good news is if you can prevent it from happening, you can keep healthy vision, you can maintain healthy vision. But once something actually happens, it's very, very difficult to reverse what's already happened. So the key here is prevention. Benjamin Franklin said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that could not be more true than for when it comes to vision health. So just keep that in mind as we're going through today's talk. So what are some of the eye changes that can happen as we get older? As I mentioned, I've been practicing for some time. I've seen pretty much everything out there that can happen. Some things are very, very common. Others are not so common. What I'm going to share with you today are what I consider the top 3 things that happen to the vast majority of people. And again, not just women, but men as well, after the age of 35. Now, these are symptoms that people experience. These are eye issues that they have to deal with as they get into mid-adulthood and later adulthood. Now, in some cases, people may actually experience some of these conditions earlier. Some people may actually have some of these issues even in their teenage years or early 20s, early 30s. But again, the vast majority of what I've seen in my practice is that people develop these issues a little bit later on in life. And the issues, I'm going to get to what those 3 issues are, but these issues, I've taken care of many patients with these issues, but I myself have also had to deal with many of these issues because now I'm over 50 and I've been through a lot of what my patients experience, some of the symptoms, some of the challenges when it comes to their eyes. And fortunately, being an ophthalmologist, I know what my options are. I've known, okay, I can do this. And if that doesn't work, I can do this and then go on to the next step. But unfortunately, as a patient, many patients don't necessarily know what their next steps are. They don't know the full spectrum of options out there to take care of their eye issues. And it's an unfortunate fact, in our world, especially in medicine, that not enough attention is being given to prevention. And it really should be, and hopefully there's going to be a change in mindset and change in ways that we deliver healthcare, but prevention is key. And unfortunately, when you do go to see your eye doctor, whether it's your ophthalmologist or optometrist, unfortunately, most visits are fairly short. Most visits are about 10, 15 minutes at the most. And of course, you may get eye testing and other things done during the visit, which may take longer, but your face-to-face time with your eye doctor is probably about 10 to 15 minutes. And in that short period of time, your eye doctor has to go through everything with you. So unfortunately, that's sometimes just not enough time to really explain what's going on, why it's happening, and what you can do about it and provide the options. So that's really the reason why I decided to put together this webinar today, is to provide you with all the information you need, because with that information, you will be empowered to take care of your eyes. You will be empowered to know, oh, I have this symptom, therefore I need to go see my eye doctor and discuss these possible options. So again, the goal is to educate you and also empower you with this information. So let's move on here. So what are those 3 things that I keep talking about that I'm going to be sharing with you today during the webinar? The 3 top issues I've found that affect people over the age of 35 are: number 1, dry eye; number 2, presbyopia. And don't worry if you don't yet know what it means, because I'm going to define it for you. And number 3, eye strain. So these are the top 3 issues I'm going to talk about. Now, of course, there are many, many other age-related eye issues that can happen. For example, floaters, cataracts, macular degeneration, glaucoma, many, many other things that can happen as people get older. But unfortunately, during the span of this 1-hour webinar, I had to pick what I thought were the top 3 things that you all should know about, that you can actually really take actionable steps, starting even today, to help manage. So these are the 3 that I chose. There are many others I could have chosen. Maybe I'll leave that for a different time, a different webinar, but this is what we're going to focus on today. So before we get into actually those 3 things, I do need to share some eye anatomy with you, because it is important to understand that the eye is a very complex structure. And there's actually over 40 working parts in the eye that all work together in concert to give us crisp, clear vision. And at any point, things can go wrong with any of those 40 working parts. And if they go wrong, people may experience symptoms of blurry vision or maybe something even more serious. So again, the eye is complex. So what are the main structures that you need to know about? This image is a cross-section of the eye. So I actually have an eye model right here, my trusty eye model that I use all the time in my classes and with my patients. So basically, this is the eye. It's like a globe, but remember, it's three-dimensional. So if I open up and have you take a look inside at what's actually going on inside the eye, you'll see that there are many structures inside here, inside this round sphere. The first thing, the structure I want you to be aware of is the very front of the eye. And this clear structure, I just took it out right here. It's it's plastic, but in reality, it's not plastic actually in your eye. But this is the cornea. This is a clear dome surface on the very front of the eye that allows light to come into the eye, so it's transparent, and it also what we call refracts light into the back of the eye to help us focus those light rays that come into the eye. Now, the other important structure that I just wanted to show you, and again, we won't go through all the eye structures today because again, just in the interest of time, but this here, sitting behind the colored part of the eye, so there's the colored part of the eye, this sitting right behind the colored part of the eye is a circular structure called the lens. Now, this lens is basically like glasses, but they're inside, it's inside your eye. And this lens helps us to focus. So without this lens working properly, we may not be able to focus either for distance or intermediate distances or up close. So the health of the lens is very critical to our vision because it sits right here behind the colored part of the eye. And if it's cloudy or if there's an issue with the lens, light rays won't get through, and they also won't get focused properly onto the back of the eye. So that is what I'm going to just share with you in terms of the front of the eye. Now, in the back of the eye, hopefully you can see this. This orange part here is the retina. Now, normally the retina is clear, but it looks orange here because there's blood vessels behind it that give it that beautiful orange color. And here is the optic nerve. Now, again, we won't go into all the various different age-related eye conditions that can affect all of these different eye structures, but I wanted to give you a very brief overview of what the eye anatomy looks like. So moving on now, let's talk about our first aging eye issue, which is dry eye. So dry eye is actually it's quite common, and we'll get to some numbers in a moment, but dry eye is when that very front part of the eye that I showed you, which is the cornea, it starts to dry out. And so the cornea normally, here, let me get the cornea again. So here's the cornea, it's clear, this clear plastic represents the cornea, but when the surface is not lubricated properly, it dries out. That's what dry eye is. And usually dry eye occurs because the surface tears, our tears help to lubricate the cornea, they just evaporate. And when they evaporate, it leaves the cornea dry, and it causes many different types of symptoms. So dry eye is actually quite common. It's estimated that almost 50 million Americans suffer from dry eye. And of course, many millions, if not billions of people in the rest of the world also have dry eye. It is definitely much more common as people get older. And it's also, this is really important, it's also more common in women. And actually, women are 3 times more likely than men to suffer from dry eye. And of course, that probably has to do with hormonal issues. And again, I won't get into that right now, but hormones play a definite role when it comes to dry eye. But then there are also environmental factors and also medical factors that can play into dry eye. Now, that being said, again, more common as people get older, more common in women, but dry eye can also happen in children. Absolutely, children can develop dry eyes. Actually, my daughter, she's 15 now, but she had dry eye when she was home doing a lot of home education during the pandemic. She was doing in basically Zoom school all day long. So she had a lot of dry eye at the time. Dry eye can also occur in men. And each of these different kind of demographics, really, in terms of figuring out what the root cause of dry eye is, really a lot of the different things can play into it. And it does require a little bit of investigation, which is what I do as part of my functional medicine approach. So what are the symptoms of dry eye? These are the most common symptoms of dry eye: burning, irritation, redness. Some people have a gritty sensation. They feel like there's sand, like little grains of sand or pebbles inside their eye. And also many people, if the eye gets dry enough, may have blurry vision. And this type of blurry vision is not constant blurry vision. It comes and goes. It comes and goes with the level of dryness. And sometimes it can be worse during certain parts of the day more than others. For example, some people wake up with very, very severe dry eye. Maybe their eyelids don't close properly at night. Their eyes dry out. Or some people, they get dry eye more towards the end of the day after being, let's say, on screens all day long for work. They start to develop dry eye. So each person is individual in terms of when their symptoms may happen. But in terms of dry eye, many people, they feel this sandy, gritty sensation. They have this tendency to want to rub their eyes because they feel irritated. Sometimes people see all this redness and they may go and get a drop to get the red out, which is probably not the best idea. And we'll talk about what types of drops may be best for your dry eye. Some people even have lid changes. So you can see here that the lid looks a little bit red and inflamed. There's some blood vessels you can see. So it's a little bit just congested and inflamed here. And then finally, in this bottom picture, it may not be so clear until I point it out to you, but this person has a dry eye and they're tearing. You see this teardrop starting to form here that will eventually roll down their cheek. So this is, a contradiction that many people have trouble understanding. If you have dry eye, why do you have tearing? And what I try to explain to people is that it may seem contradictory, but it actually makes sense if you understand what's happening. If the eye first dries out, then the tear glands kick in. The main tear gland is up here, but we also have tear glands on the surface of our eye and in our eyelids. They kick in and they overproduce tears. So the tearing is in response to the dryness. If you can treat the dryness, you can improve your tearing. So keep that in mind, even though it may seem like it doesn't quite make sense. Now, I mentioned earlier, there are many potential root causes of dry eye, and this is again something that I do in my practice. What we look for on the exam, though, is we use a dye that's called fluorescein. And many of you, maybe if you've gone to the eye doctor, you've come out with this kind of fluorescent green stuff coming out of your eyes. That's the remnants of the dye that we use. And the dye, what it does is it basically coats the surface of the cornea. So here you can see the dye coating the cornea, and it's smooth. It's very nice and smooth. This is a healthy cornea. Now, in these pictures here, these are various pictures of people with dry eye. So you can see that instead of the dye coating the eye nice and evenly, you can see that there are these bright green areas. And these are areas that basically have dried out. These areas are not getting proper lubrication. So this here is more of like a mild form of dry eye where you can see like kind of scattered areas that are really dried out. This is a little bit more severe. But mainly on the bottom part of this person's eye. And here, this is even more severe than that. So there are different stages of dry eye. There's mild, moderate, severe, but basically it's because the surface of the eye is drying out. And this is a very, very severe case where you can see pretty much the entire cornea is what we call staining. It's picking up this dye because it is very, very dry. Now, when I talk to people about dry eye, when I get their intake, what could be causing their dry eye, there's some important parts of the history that you need to consider. So, for example, if someone wears contact lenses, they're much, much more likely to have dry eye. And maybe some of you wear contact lenses. If you do, then just put it into the chat. I don't know if the chat's working right now. I think it is actually. Let me see. Yes. No, maybe it's not working. Let me just try one more time. Okay, I think it should be working. If someone can just maybe, there we go. So now I think the chat is working. I apologize for that. Again, I'm using a new platform, so it kind of throws me off sometimes when I'm using a new platform. But going back to the root causes of dry eye. So contact lens wearers, people who take certain medications, including asthma and allergy medications, can actually dry out your eyes. Sometimes even blood pressure medications can cause dryness of the eye. And there are many, many other medications that can do it as well. Then there's some people who have other types of underlying medical conditions like autoimmune conditions. For example, people with rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, they may be more prone or predisposed to dry eye. So here, this picture up here is an individual with a specific type of arthritis called psoriatic arthritis. It's an autoimmune form of arthritis. And those patients are also much more predisposed to dry eye. So again, many, many different causes of dry eye. And of course, one that is very common in the younger demographic is excess screen time. And why does this cause dry eye? Well, normally we blink. Actually, does anyone want to guess how many times do you think we blink in a minute? What's the normal blink rate? So just put it into the chat now that we have the chat. Let's just get some polls going here. How many times do you think people blink every minute? Okay, so I see 20, 60, 7, 50, yeah, 25. So there's a range there. So we actually blink about 15 to 20 times a minute. However, when we're on screens, when we're staring at a screen for a prolonged period of time, we only blink 3 to 5 times a minute. Now that's crazy if you think about it. That's 1/5 of the blink rate that we should normally have. And it's because we're just focused on what we're doing. We're focused so much that our brain just forgets to blink. And so it forgets to tell our eyes to blink. So basically, that's why screen time is associated with dry eye. And for people who are on screens for extended periods of time, remember, you have to kind of set your timer and almost remind yourself periodically to blink, because it really does make a big, big difference. So, all right, so let's move on here. Now, what is the first line treatment for dry eye? Well, the answer is probably what many of you have heard from your eye doctor, is to lubricate. And the way I describe this is, think of dry eye like dry skin. If your skin gets dry, you don't just put on lotion once. You continually have to lubricate. You look, you see if it's dry, if it feels dry, if it's feeling uncomfortable or scratchy or irritated, itchy, you put some lotion on. The same thing with dry eye is you have to lubricate, and you have to lubricate fairly frequently, depending on how severe your dry eye is. So if you don't have that much severe dry eye, maybe a couple of times a day is fine. But for those of my patients who have very, very severe dry eye, they are putting in drops every hour while they're awake. And sometimes, additional things, many other additional things as well, but you have to lubricate frequently if you have dry eye. Now, what types of drops are best? This is a question I get asked almost every single day, because you go to the pharmacy and you see a whole array of different drops that you can choose from. What I'll tell you is that overall, most of the brands are fairly equivalent, whether you're choosing Refresh, or Systane, or Gentile, or TheraTears, or Blink. These are the brands that are most commonly used in the US. If you're outside of the US, there may be other brands that you have access to, but most of these brands, I would say, are generally equivalent in terms of their safety and their efficacy. There may be different levels of therapy, and actually, we'll talk about that at the very end of today's webinar, about some more specifics about dry eye drops. But again, these are fairly safe. The other thing I just want to mention is that try to avoid these common dry eye mistakes. If you're shopping for dry eye drops, avoid Visine, first of all. Many people turn to Visine because their logo is to get the out, but unfortunately that drop has an ingredient in it that constricts blood vessels, and your eye gets used to that if you use it often. But then when you don't use it, it actually makes things much worse. So people actually have a rebound reaction sometimes if they use Visine too often. Also, avoid an ingredient called BAK, B-A-K. That's a specific preservative that is used in many, many eye drops, both prescription and over the counter. People can actually develop allergic reactions to. So just try to stay away from that. And then finally, this is really, really, it kind of breaks my heart when I think about this. There is an ingredient called polyvinyl alcohol that's in many generic drops. And people, use it because they think, oh, this is a great artificial tear. It's cheap. I'm going to use it. But unfortunately, that polyvinyl alcohol, it's a cheap ingredient. It can actually irritate the eyes. It's not pH balanced to the eye, so it stings when you put it in. And I've seen it actually cause toxicity and make things worse. So look for these three things: avoid Visine, BAK, and polyvinyl alcohol, or PVA. Just if you have any of those, just throw them out, throw them in the garbage, because they are not good for your eyes. Instead, use some of those drops that I mentioned earlier. And then frequency is key as well. So use drops 3 to 4 times daily, not just once a day. I have patients that say, Dr. Banik, my dry eye is not better. I put the drops in every day, like you said. And I say, okay, when do you put them in? And they say, oh, in the morning, right after I wake up. And I said, that's not enough. You need to put them in regularly throughout the day. Again, think of it like dry skin. You just have to lubricate, lubricate, lubricate. Some patients say, oh yeah, I use my drops, once a week or twice a week. Isn't that enough? No, it needs to be, if you have dry eye, it needs to be on a daily basis. Okay. Now, the other thing that many people don't realize when it comes to dry eye is that I mentioned earlier that the tears evaporate very quickly in the majority of patients with dry eye. Why are they evaporating? It's because we actually have glands in our eyelids that are called meibomian glands. And these glands are tiny, tiny little oil glands that secrete healthy oils that help to make up our tear film. And if you have healthy oils in your tear film, then your tears won't evaporate. But if you don't have healthy oils in your tear film, they will evaporate. So the goal is to help support your meibomian glands in making healthy oils for your tears. And so it's not just treating the dryness with lubrication, but you also have to do a little bit extra to keep these glands healthy. Now, again, these glands are called meibomian glands. You may have heard them as meibomian glands or meibomian gland dysfunction. MGD is a term that we use in the eye care world to describe what happens when people have this type of unhealthy oil production. So this is what blocked glands look like. So you can't see it in the picture, but there's a little eyelash there. So this is on the inside of the eyelid, the inner surface of your eyelid. And if you look in the mirror, you can actually see like little dots. Those little dots are your gland orifices. That's actually where the glands open up and then they secrete their oils. So you can, in some patients, I can actually just look from not even under the microscope. I can look and see that their glands are blocked. And you can see it right here that there's this yellow kind of secretion in there that's literally plugging up the gland. So this person needs to get their glands unblocked or unclogged. We can talk about that later. This is a treatment that can be very, very effective for people who have this meibomian gland dysfunction with dry eye disease. In my practice, what I do is I do a special type of imaging called liposcan imaging. And basically, this is an infrared camera that can visualize the glands. So you can see here, they look like little fingers, but they're actually little glands. And we each have, we have about 25 to 30 glands in each eyelid. And this is what a healthy person's glands would look like. But here in this picture, you can see that there's some early gland loss. So the glands have started to drop out. And once the glands start to degenerate and drop out, that process is unfortunately irreversible. You don't want it to get to that stage where your glands are so dysfunctional that they start to die. You do not want that to happen because you cannot get them back. And so it is really important to be aggressive with dry eye disease if we start to see this happening. This is a patient who basically has no glands left. And it's very, very advanced dry eye disease. You can see there's like little stubs of glands right here, and that's it. So we definitely don't recommend kind of ignoring this important part of dry eye treatment. Is to address the glands. So how can you keep your glands healthy? Well, warm compresses can be very helpful because the heat will help to loosen up the glands, the clogged material in the glands, and then help to expel them. So heat followed by massage. You can do a hot towel. Not my favorite, and I'll explain why. Or I like to have my patients use a mask, which actually retains the heat for a much longer period of time. These masks have these microbeads in them. So you put it in the microwave, you heat it up for about 10, 15 seconds. That's all it needs. And then you put it on your eyes, and that heat will last for about 5 to 10 minutes. Versus if you use a little hot rag or hot towel, that heat will be dissipated within a minute. That's really not doing you much good. You need to have prolonged heat to get those secretions to loosen in your glands. So think about, when you're doing warm compresses, make sure that you're really applying prolonged heat to your eyelids to get those glands warmed up and to get those secretions loosened. Now, mistakes to avoid when it comes to warm compresses. I have patients who tell me, well, Dr. Banik, I use a tea bag. Isn't that enough? And I say, no. Absolutely not. You can use a tea bag for other eye issues, but to treat meibomian gland dysfunction, the tea bag simply does not retain the heat long enough. And if you get it hot enough, it's going to burn your skin. So that's another thing. You don't want to do that. Instead, use a proper eye mask, a heated eye mask, or use a hot compress. This sounds a little bit unusual, but some of my patients, I tell them to use a hot potato. You take a small potato, you heat it up in the microwave, you put it on your eye, and that heat will stay there for 10 to 15 minutes. Some people even use a hot hard-boiled egg. They just boil it, let it cool a little bit, and then put that on their eye. The egg can break, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. But I love the hot potato. It's worked for me. I've actually used it in my past when I've had dry eye issues and stite issues. So avoid the tea bag. And also duration is important. So at least 10 minutes a day. And you can split it up. You can do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, or you can do 10 minutes altogether. And some other people, they just do it only as needed. But when it comes to treating meibomian gland issues, you really need to be consistent and do it on a regular basis. Make it part of your nightly routine. You know, for example, if you're brushing your teeth, if you're washing your face, do your hot compress at the same time. Make it a spa experience for you, and your eyes will love you for it. So, all right. So now I am done with that section, and I'd like to just take some questions here. So, all right, I'm going to go back a little bit in the chat and the okay, I apologize. Let me just scroll through here. Okay, so we talked about eye drops, and I'm going to be sharing a link with you at the end of the webinar for some good eye drop recommendations. One person has asked about Similasan, and I actually do really like Similasan. It comes from, I believe, Switzerland, and it's a brand that's homeopathic. It has some botanical ingredients in there, which have been used for thousands of years to help people with their eye issues. So I have no issues with Similasan. It is a lubricant as well, so you get the benefit of the homeopathic ingredients plus the lubrication. And then let's see here. Do I suggest wearing an eye patch at night? Yes, for some people, though, not for everyone. So, for example, I have some people who sleep. When they sleep, they close their eyes, and there's a little sliver of their eyelid that doesn't close. I'm sure you've probably seen people who look like they're sleeping, but eyes are not fully closed. So people who have a little bit of exposure at night should definitely wear some kind of an eye patch at night, or an eye mask. Now, you don't want to put too much pressure on your eyes. That's kind of the pros and the cons of wearing something like that, because if your eye pressure goes up, it can lead to other issues like glaucoma. But you want to wear some kind of a loosely fitting mask, or so I have some patients who even tape their eyelids shut at night if they have significant exposure at night, or some patients even wear moisture goggles, which are a great solution to that problem where the eyes can really dry out at night. Another question, how can we find a heated eye mask? Well, there's some great ones on Amazon, but there's one particular brand that I recommend that I'm going to be sharing with you again at the end of the webinar. And okay, can any eye doctor do a liposcan? So there are many doctors who have the machine, the equipment, and some that don't. So I think you just have to call ahead of time and ask them if they have that machine available to them. And is it part of the normal annual eye exam? The liposcan is if your doctor has it. Like, for example, in my practice, I do it on my patients. I don't charge for it. It's a free service. It's a quick picture. It takes 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes to do the pictures. And I do them annually to get a sense of where my patients are and if things are changing in their eyelids. So let me move on here to the next section. I apologize if I didn't get to your questions, but I really do want to keep moving. We're actually already 40 minutes into the webinar, and there's still a lot of information I want to share with you. So let's move on here. So the next eye issue we're going to talk about is presbyopia. So, oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. Okay, presbyopia. So let me explain a little bit of optics here of our eyes. So normally, if we were looking at something in the distance, those light rays are coming into your eye, and your cornea and your lens are focusing those light rays right onto the back of the eye, onto your retina. So you can see here, the light rays are coming in parallel. They go through the cornea, through the lens, and then they get focused to a point back here. And that's how you can have crisp, clear vision. When we look at something up close, the light beams are not coming in parallel. They're actually kind of coming in from the object and then diverging. So our eye has to put an extra effort to focus those light beams onto our retina. And so how does the eye do that? Well, it actually changes shape. Not the entire eye, but the lens inside of our eye changes shape. So we can focus that image from up close onto our retina. Now, this process, there's a medical term for it. It's called accommodation. And, oh, sorry, I went the wrong way again. Okay, so this is a little bit more of an anatomical diagram of what's happening, but there's actually a small muscle inside the eye that helps to change the shape of the lens depending on where we're looking, whether we're looking at a far away target in the distance, or something like intermediate distance, like a computer, or up close if we're reading something or looking at our phones. So the lens is constantly changing shape depending on where you're looking. But what happens is, as we get older, we lose this ability. Our eye loses its ability to accommodate or to focus up close. And what happens because of that? Because of that, things are blurry. We can't focus up close. It's harder to read. And what ends up happening is that many people hold things further and further away from them. So eventually it gets to the point where people's arms just aren't long enough. So if you've had this happen, just put it into the chat. If you've developed presbyopia and you've kind of felt like your arms have kind of reached their limit, they're simply not long enough. But this is a very, very common condition that happens as we get older. So near tests become more difficult. And why does this happen? Well, there are many theories out there. The leading theory is that the lens simply becomes stiffer as we get older. It's not as flexible, and so it can change shape less. Other theories suggest that maybe the muscle is the problem, and the muscle's just not working, or the suspension. We have a whole suspension system in the eye. Maybe there's something wrong with the suspension system that doesn't allow us to focus. But there are many theories out there. Again, the leading theory is that the lens just becomes stiffer and less flexible. So what are the ways to deal with this? Well, first of all, let me just mention that who gets presbyopia? Almost everyone, because this is a change that happens as we get older. Everyone develops this. And I know that there are probably some people out there who will say, no, I'm 60 years old, I don't have it, or I'm 70 years old, I don't have it. Most likely you do have it, but your eye, because of what we call your refraction, has been able to acclimate to it, so it doesn't bother you as much. But most people do go through this natural aging process of presbyopia. And when does it happen? It typically happens after age 40. The average age of onset is about 40 to 42, but it can happen as young as people's 30s. I've definitely seen people who are in their mid 30s, like 35 or even younger sometimes, who develop early presbyopia. And in some people, it may not actually become symptomatic until they're older, like 55, 60, but guaranteed, everyone, if you live long enough, you will develop presbyopia. And we think that it's estimated that presbyopia affects about 1.3 billion people around the world. So we know that this is definitely a global health issue. And unfortunately, many people don't have access to the treatments that actually work quite well, but they don't have access to the treatments that we use for presbyopia. So let's move on here. As I mentioned earlier, presbyopia develops as we get older, and there's actually a chart that we use in ophthalmology and optometry to estimate how much power do we need to give people to help them focus up close. So this is a little bit more advanced optics. I don't want to get into the details of all of this, but basically, if someone can't focus up close, if we put a magnifying lens in front of their eye, they will be able to focus better. Things will be a little bit bigger, but also more in focus. And so based off of this chart that we use, it's really based off of someone's age. And this is an approximation, but for example, someone who is 40 to 42 probably needs a little bit of help, magnifiers of 0.75, versus if you're 50 to 52, you may need a magnifier that's 1.75, or if you're over 50, closer to your 60s, you may need 250. Eventually, it does plateau out. It doesn't keep increasing indefinitely. Usually, most people plateau out at anywhere between 275 to 3, sometimes even 350, but rarely does presbyopia require more than that. Now, if you have never worn glasses before, it's possible that you can just get reading glasses of this strength and your vision will be clear. But if you previously wore glasses, whether you're myopic, which is nearsighted, or hyperopic, which is farsighted, that prescription has to be adjusted for the presbyopia for your reading vision. And that's why many people end up wearing not just reading glasses, but progressive lenses, because that's correcting their presbyopia. So they still have the same prescription for distance, but for reading, they have a little bit of extra magnification. Okay, so the best solution is, again, if you have a simple problem, presbyopia, you've never worn glasses before, simply go to the drugstore and pick up a pair of over-the-counter reading glasses. You can use charts to help guide you. For example, there is this downloadable chart you can get, which basically you take it with you, or you bring something of small print that has small print in it that you can read, put on different pairs and see what you feel most comfortable with. But this chart can be very, very helpful to get you a sense of, or in the ballpark of, what number do you need in terms of your magnification. We call it an AD lens, ADD lens. So that's my insight tip number 3 is to get over-the-counter reading glasses. And this chart is kind of how you know or estimate what power you need. Now, my other tip is, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. I really apologize. I'm having issues with this platform here. Okay, there we go. Insight tip number 4 is to just simply adjust your device. If you're reading on a device, to have a bigger font size and maybe adjust the background contrast to help you read better. And there are apps even out there that you can use to help you read better, and lighting hacks. Now, I definitely noticed for myself, I definitely have presbyopia. When it becomes evening time, during the day, my vision, I can read perfectly fine, but at nighttime, I definitely need more light. And it's oftentimes best to have the light coming from behind you. So it's aimed at not above, but aimed kind of towards your reading material to give you the best lighting possible. So definitely you can play around with your device settings as well as lighting hacks. And now I just want to mention this here. This is a little bit more advanced. This is not really part of kind of the basic solutions that I want to provide in this webinar, but there are many new options for presbyopia, which is amazing because these options did not exist before. There's an FDA approved drop now that can be used for presbyopia, and there are now many different types of refractive solutions. For example, different types of glasses, different options for glasses / contacts, and also surgeries that are very, very effective for presbyopia. Now, of course, I would not recommend rushing into any kind of surgery, but for some people, if they've been really struggling with getting their prescription right and they're really uncomfortable for reading and for distance, then it may be a good option for them to pursue surgery. So these are some things that I can't go into this too much in depth today, but definitely talk to your eye doctor about these options, these newer options that are out there. Just in the past year or two, there are some great new options out there for presbyopia. So I think the landscape for this is really changing. So any questions you have right now about presbyopia? I have a question about Vuity. So Vuity is a drop that is prescription that can be used for presbyopia. I've tried it myself. I'm not a big fan, but there are some people who do use it and have found benefit from it. So, but again, this is something that you should, if you're considering something like that, I'm sure that you've probably seen ads on TV for Vuity because it is a huge market out there of the 1.3 billion people out there with presbyopia to use this type of a drop, but it's not for everyone. And there can be some potential risks as well. And then in terms of surgeries, there are, again, this is a little bit beyond the scope of today's webinar, but there are many surgeries out there that can be used, that can be performed to help with presbyopia as well as other refractive issues. So now I'm going to move on, just in the interest of time. We're going to be talking next about eye strain and light sensitivity. So raise your hand or put it into the chat if you've had eye strain, if you've suffered from this, because I know I definitely have. Eye strain, light sensitivity, all of the above. Yes, so I'm getting lots of yeses here. You are not alone. And this is something, especially during the pandemic, this is something I saw almost every single day because people were on their screens for hours and hours and hours. And we're still on our screens quite a bit. But this really became a big issue during the pandemic because we're all working from home or doing homeschooling, et cetera. So this is a really interesting paper that was published. This was more of a survey that was published in Scientific American back, this is well over 7-8 years ago. And I guess the editors, they surveyed people, how much time do they spend on their devices? So put it into the chat. How much time do you think an average adult spends on a device? 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, more? Just take a guess, put it into the chat. Let's see. Getting a couple of 8s, 10 hours, 6 hours, 8. So the majority of people have said 10 to 12. Yes, me too, 10 to 12. Especially now, we're on Zoom right now. So speaking of that, this is kind of shocking. Let me go back to here, sorry. So the average, oh my goodness, here we go again. my presentation's running away from me. Okay, so the average amount of time people spent on a screen was 10 hours, 39 minutes. Mind-boggling. It's just crazy, crazy, crazy to think we spend that much time in front of a screen. Yes, it's unbelievable. But basically, this is pre-pandemic. So you can imagine now things have probably changed. They're probably, the numbers have gone up significantly, but there are definitely days when I probably spend at least 14 hours a day in front of a screen without a doubt. So not great. So there's no surprise that people have eye strain, but you also have to think about, what is this doing to our overall health as well? Just kind of consider these questions. It's not something I really want to delve too much into the webinar about on the webinar today, but it affects our physical health, it affects our mental health, our emotional health, our financial health. It's all linked. Screens are great, devices are great. They help us be very productive. They really help us connect, but you kind of have to keep everything in balance when it comes to using screens. So what about your eyes? What are some of the symptoms of eye strain related to digital devices? Well, the umbrella term for this is digital eye strain. Some people call it computer vision syndrome, so you can use that term as well. And it's really a constellation of symptoms. So it's not that everybody has all of these symptoms. Different people may have different manifestations of digital eye strain. But what are the most common symptoms? Dry, itchy eyes, watery eyes, tired eyes, headaches, blurred vision, and even neck and back, and I'll add shoulder pain as well, just from being hunched over, looking at your device on your phone or tablet, etc. So these are just some general symptoms that people can have. Now, when it comes to digital eye strain, I think about it in terms of what are the three root causes of the eye strain? Where is it coming from for each individual patient? And how can we help each of those three things? So two of those things we already talked about, which is great. Digital eye strain can be caused by dry eye, which we went over extensively, or it can also be caused by having an incorrect prescription for intermediate or near distance. So if your prescription is not right, if your reading ad is not right in your glasses or your contacts, you may suffer from eye strain. And then the third thing, which I'm going to be talking about next, is light sensitivity as a root cause of eye strain. So, so I see some questions already about blue light, but just hang on there. We're going to get to it. You'll get probably more than what you expected when it comes to blue light, learning about blue light. So light sensitivity from screens is mainly because of the blue light that comes from screens. So what exactly is blue light? And also, is it helpful or is it harmful to us and our eyes? So there was this article that was published. This is back in 2008. 2018. Sorry, I'm saying 2008. 2018. And this article was an alarmist headline. It created a big media frenzy because this article basically said that our screens are destroying our retinas and our retinal cells are dying and we have to stop using screens. So this came out and, the American Academy of Ophthalmology immediately wrote, a response to this saying, this is not true. This was one research article that suggested that there could be long-term damage from using not from using screens, but from prolonged blue light exposure. But subsequently, just kind of have to think about, put this in context, that if blue light really caused permanent damage, we would have an epidemic of blindness right now, and we don't. We do not have an epidemic of blindness. We have epidemics of other things, but not of blindness. So, given the amount of time we all spend on screens, billions of people on the planet on screens all the time, we are not permanently damaging our eyes from this blue light. However, there can be short-term side effects that you should all be aware of. So what are some of these side effects? Well, let me first just give you a little bit of background on this. The light spectrum, so light in our eyes. Now here, on the bottom here is the wavelength of light. Now there's light that's short wavelength, that's called UV light, but we can't see that UV light. Then there's light that's on the longer end of the spectrum, which is infrared light. We also can't see that light. What we can see are the visible colors of the rainbow. So this is the visible spectrum of light between about 400 to about 680 to 700 nanometers is what we can see. So within that, the blue light is, as you can see, it's more towards the shorter wavelength spectrum. And blue light is very high energy, short wavelength light. And that's where the problem may arise, because it's high energy, short wavelength. It can lead to certain health issues and even eye issues as well. So let's talk a little bit about what they could be. First of all, our eye is really well designed. It's designed to filter out a lot of harmful light. So for example, UV, A, B, and C light that comes from the sun, the majority is either filtered out by the ozone layer or by our cornea and lens. So very little UV light gets into the eye. Maybe a little bit of UV light can actually get into the eye, and we absolutely should protect against that. But in terms of the visible spectrum of light, it gets through the ozone layer, it gets through the atmosphere, it gets through the cornea, it gets through the lens, and it hits our retina. And again, the blue wavelengths are the ones that we have to be most concerned about, because they're definitely on the shorter wavelength, shorter end of the spectrum, more powerful, more energy, etc. So how can we protect against that? Well, if we think about it, blue light is not all bad. So the majority of blue light that we get exposed to comes from the sun. And that is healthy blue light. That blue light that comes from the sun helps to regulate our sleep patterns. It helps with our mood. It helps with our states of alertness, our attention. So there are many, many great benefits of natural blue light that comes from the sun. But what about artificial blue light? What about all of these devices that we're using that are all emitting blue light, whether it's your computer desktop, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, TV screens, all emit blue light. Even the bulbs that we now use, because they're energy saving bulbs like CFL and LED bulbs, they all emit blue light. So what about all this blue light that's surrounding us everywhere? What could it possibly be doing to potentially be doing to our eyes? Well, the good news is, again, there is no permanent damage that we know of so far that blue light does to our eyes. There is no epidemic of blindness, but it can disrupt our sleep. It can make it harder to fall asleep and to stay asleep. And it can contribute to eye strain, and it can definitely lead to light sensitivity. So that being said, what could we do about this artificial blue light? Well, first of all, I would say try to limit the amount of blue light exposure after the sun sets. I know it's a little bit hard now with daylight savings time because the sun sets really early in the northern hemisphere, and we end up being indoors, exposed to blue light from our bulbs, exposed to blue light from devices. So the question is, should you get blue blockers? I get this question every single day about blue blocking glasses. Well, the truth is that blue blockers can help symptomatically, or anecdotally, I should say, they can help. They can help with light sensitivity, they can help with eye strain, but there is no proof that they actually definitely work. So again, there are patients of mine who swear by their blue blockers, who say, I can't live without my blue blockers. They help me so much. My eyes are so much more relaxed. I'm more comfortable. I sleep better. Absolutely, for those patients, go ahead, wear your blue blockers, but not everybody benefits. And let's get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty about this, why they may not be benefiting. So there was a study done by Consumer Reports published in 2016, where they looked at the top 3 blue blockers on the market at that time. Now, since that time, there are many, many other blue blockers out there on the market, but back then there were these 3 main ones. And they had different tints, you can see. So there's one that's kind of a orangish tint, one that's a very, very light yellow, and one that looks almost clear. So they measured how much blue light these blue blockers block. And what they found was that the orange tinted ones blocked almost 100% of the blue light, versus the ones that were less tinted, more clear, blocked less of the blue light. So they were not as effective in blocking the blue light. So for example, the yellow ones, the gaming glasses, blocked about they leave about 30 to 40% of the blue light, and then blocked about 50% of the blue light. And then the more clear ones basically blocked about 20 to 30% of the blue light. So the tint does matter. And what I'll tell you is that if you choose to get a blue blocker, get one with a deeper tint. And this is a company that I use myself. I have these blue blockers, and these are very deeply tinted red. You can see that. And these are what I wear sometimes at night when I'm really working late into the night on my screen. And the way I know that they're really blocking the blue light is because when I look at my screen, when I look at something blue on my screen, I don't see it as blue. So I know that this blue blocker is really blocking out all the blue light, versus sometimes during the day, I may wear a lighter tint blue blocker. So for example, I don't know if you can see this here. This is a very, very light yellow tint. Sometimes I put this on and it really does help to soothe things a little bit. It cuts the light sensitivity. And sometimes I wear these during the day for that reason. Now, again, these are from the same brand. I'm going to have, the brand is called True Dark. I'm going to have my staff just drop the link into the chat if you wanted to check it out. But this company I trust. Uvex is another great company. But just kind of talk to your, if you're going to your optician and they're trying to sell you blue blockers, maybe ask them, how is it made? Do I really need them? Maybe if you can, try on a sample and see if you can see something blue on a screen, because if you can see the blue, it's not really blocking all of the blue light. Now, if you're wearing glasses, you can either get a tint put on the glasses, or you can wear, that's why I like these so much, because they're very big and they're cover-ups. So if I wore glasses and I put these on top, it would actually fit on top of my glasses. My husband actually has glasses with thick frames, and he uses something like this. So yes, you can still wear the blue blockers even with glasses. So that was another tip. The last tip for blue light is instead of using some people get like an anti-glare screen on their computer. I actually like the software a lot. It's called Iris, and I'm going to have my assistant drop that link into the chat as well. This is an app that you can download to your phone, to your computer, to your tablet. And what it does is it internally takes out the blue light. So it internally just adjusts the settings on your screen. And actually, it's very versatile, this app. You can actually adjust it to many different settings and see which one you feel most comfortable with. So some people may be okay, there's a healthy setting, there's a sleep setting, there's a movie setting, there's all kinds of, there's a gaming setting. So just depending on what your needs are, you may want to play around with the settings on the app and see what works best for you. So with that, sorry, I know we're a little bit over an hour, so I really apologize. I'm glad you all stuck with me, but just stick with me a little bit more, because I have more great, hopefully valuable information for you. So again, I apologize, I ran a little bit over. I did have some technical glitches at the very beginning, so I apologize for that. So maybe I'll take like one other question about light sensitivity and then we'll move on. I think I answered. Okay, so I got a question about night glare and night driving glasses. So you may have seen them advertised on TV, The night driving glasses, they have kind of a yellowish tint to them. And basically that tint cuts back on the glare, but also when it cuts back on the glare, it cuts down on the contrast. So you're actually seeing less contrast. And I actually think it's not the safest thing to wear those at nighttime when you're driving, because it really, if you're not seeing high contrast at night when you're driving, that's not, safety wise, it's not good. So I'm not a big fan of those driving nighttime glasses as they're marketed. But you may want to try, you could potentially even try like a very lightly tinted blue blocker and see if that helps you when you're driving at night. So let me keep moving here. So we've spent a little bit over an hour together. We've talked about the three main issues that I've seen affecting people over the age of 35 with respect to aging in their eyes. So just to review real quick what those three issues are: dry eye. And I talked about what was the cause of dry eye, what some of the root causes are, and two really important tips on how to manage it. Number one, use those lubricating drops very frequently. And number two, use proper warm compresses. Then we talked about presbyopia, what happens, why it happens, and then some easy, simple solutions, whether you're going to choose to wear over-the-counter reading glasses, or maybe you want to make an appointment to see your eye doctor to get a prescription adjustment, or simply using device hacks and lighting hacks. That works really, really well. And then the third thing we talked about was eye strain, light sensitivity. We did a really fast, a whirlwind review of blue light and devices, and some two great options to manage the blue light, whether it's a blue blocking glass or a tinted blue blocking glass. And now again, the tint, I strongly recommend if you're wearing them at nighttime to wear a really dark tint, whether it's a deep red, deep yellow, or amber or orange. Those are the four tints that I recommend for nighttime use. During the day, you can definitely wear, if you want to wear them, wear a lighter tint, that's perfectly fine. And then the other thing was the app, which unfortunately I didn't have a chance to show you a demonstration of it, but just download it. I think there's a free trial. I think you get like a 14-day free trial, and then it's a nominal fee if you wanted to purchase it for your device. But I've had patients who love it. I mean, it's life-changing for many people who are on screens all day long. So we covered quite a bit. But when it comes to managing the effects of aging on your eyes, think about the root cause of the problem, implement the first line strategies, those DIY strategies that I shared with you, those 6 insight tips. I didn't really talk too much about this, but insight tips are what I recommend, your DIY strategies to help you promote your eye health. But then some people may actually need to move on to a higher level strategy, a deeper strategy. For example, for my patients who have dry eyes secondary to hormonal issues, whether it's perimenopause or menopause, I work with them really to figure out, okay, what's going on hormonally. And sometimes patients need to have compounded drops, or if they have any kind of underlying inflammatory condition or autoimmune condition, sometimes they need to have compounded eye drops to help manage that. And then there are many, many other strategies. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to go through them all that can be used for all of those 3 issues that I described, whether it's dry eyes, presbyopia, including those surgical issues, and then the light sensitivity. And then the last thing would be to really have the foundation. I shouldn't say it's the last thing. It's probably the most important thing, is to have that really strong foundation of healthy diet and lifestyle choices. So with that, who is ready to take things to the next level for your eye health? I know you've been with me for over an hour, and I really appreciate you for that. So thank you so much for sticking in there with me. But what I've given you so far are strategies that you can do on your own. Everything I've talked about today, almost everything, you can do on your own. It is DIY, simple, basic things. But then sometimes people need to move it up to the next level, the next tier, and then the tier after that. So there's almost like, I would say 3 tiers when it comes to your eye health. The first tier, which I described to you, then there's a second tier, and then there's a third tier of strategies to help promote your eye health. So with your permission, I'd like to go on just a couple more minutes and then just share a couple more things with you. So now, what I'd like to do is I would like to introduce you all to a new program I'm launching in 2023 called Ageless Eyes by Dr. Rani. And in this program, I'm going to be sharing my best tips. So again, I shared with you some valuable information, and I hope you found that valuable. Please put it into the chat if you did. I always love to get feedback on my webinars. I like to know if I was helpful, if I gave people actionable steps that they can use. But this program really helps you take it to the next level and help you really do everything you need to do to protect and preserve your eyes going forward. Because what I always tell my patients is vision is priceless. Yes, we take it for granted. Yes, there are many, many things we can do to promote and prevent eye disease. But if you wait too long, if something happens, for example, if you develop macular degeneration or a cataract or something else, that causes scarring in your eye, if it gets to that stage, unfortunately, it's pretty much irreversible. So you want to do whatever it takes before it gets to that stage. And this is what my program is all about, is learning all of those pieces of the puzzle. What are all those things that you need to do to keep your eyes healthy? And so let me just explain what the online program is about. This is going to be held via Zoom, just like we're doing now. And there will be 3 core modules in this online program. So week 1 is going to be the dry eye solution, going beyond over-the-counter drops. So beyond those strategies that I explained to you earlier. And then week number 2 is the presbyopia solution, beyond reading glasses. Week number 3 is the light solution, beyond blue blockers. So let's go a little bit more into what each of these modules will include. So in week 1, the dry eye solution, I'm going to teach you how to manage your dry eye by addressing the root cause, so you no longer have to suffer from symptoms of dry eye like discomfort, scratchiness, tearing, blurry vision, redness, etc. And these are strategies, again, they're going to be tiered. So first tier, second tier, third tier. So probably much well beyond what maybe your eye doctor has talked to you about within that 10 to 15 minute visit. Basically, you get that information from me. And we have basically every week, each module is an hour and a half training on Zoom. And then we'll do later in the week, we'll do a Q&A session. So people can, ask their Q&A, their questions directly and then get them answered. So That's a structure. Week 2 is going to be the presbyopia solution beyond readers. So learn about the many options beyond traditional reading glasses that help you see clearly and comfortably again while doing any kind of near work, such as reading or using a device. So this is really, really important for people like me. I mean, there have been times when I've gone to a dimly lit restaurant and it's a struggle to read, the fine print on a menu. But with these solutions, I will teach you all the options, the DIY options, plus maybe the non-DIY options that you can take to your local eye doctor and say, hey, can I try this? Or I learned about this from Dr. Rani. Is this safe for me? Or, is this an option for me? If you are empowered with that knowledge, you will be able to better deal with your problem and basically retain healthy vision. And that's the goal, is to retain healthy vision despite some of these aging changes. That's why I call the program Ageless. It's not anti-aging necessarily, but it's being comfortable as you age with those changes that are naturally happening in your eyes as you're getting older. And then week 3 is the light solution beyond blue blockers. So in this module, you're going to discover how to modulate the effects of different types of light on your eyes, so you can reduce eye strain and fatigue and sensitivity. And also, not only that, but optimize your eyes' function and regenerative capabilities with other kinds of light. So I don't know if whether anybody's heard about this before, but I also, in my practice, sometimes I recommend red light and infrared light as therapeutic forms of light. So I will review that for you and give you specific recommendations on what you can do from not just the protection angle, but also the being really proactive about things, about using some tools for regeneration and kind of, again, health promotion in terms of the future. And then, so basically, as I mentioned earlier, this is all online. You don't have to come see me in person. You don't have to travel to New York. You don't have to, come for multiple visits. It's all online. Every week, every Monday, we're going to be doing a Zoom webinar, which is about 90 minutes long. I will go through everything just like I've done today. I hope you've gotten value again today. Similar to this is my teaching style. I love to educate. So I'll be sharing all these great actionable tips with you. And then that's a Monday. And then on Friday, we'll be doing the live Q&A, about 60 minutes or however long we need to go. If we need to go beyond 60 minutes, we'll gladly go beyond 60 minutes to get all of your eye health questions answered. Both of those sessions will be at 12 p.m. Eastern. If you're in a different time zone or if you're working and you cannot make that time, no worries. You can still get access to the recordings. You will have lifetime access to these recordings going forward. So don't worry about, the timing if it doesn't work for you. And then in addition to that, as part of the course, you'll get exclusive resources. You'll get my curated health product guides that will help keep your vision healthy and strong. And hopefully ageless. And plus there are discounts for some of those products that I can offer if you're taking the course. And there's also going to be, I didn't put it in here, but there's also going to be recipes because I'm really, really big on nutrition as well. So some of my top eye health recipes. And then also as part of the course, you get to join my Ageless community. This is a private Facebook group in which I'm going to be having everyone, not just myself sharing information, but everyone, we can all learn from each other. So I encourage people in the group to learn and share their best eye health practices and their best nutrition practices and best lifestyle practices with the rest of the group. So we can all grow together and learn and basically embrace being ageless. And this is a private Facebook group. If you're not on Facebook, I apologize, but this was the best way for me to kind of put this together and to create the community on that platform. So these are, again, what's included in the course: the 3 core modules: dry eye, presbyopia, light sensitivity, the weekly live Q&A, the resources, and the invitation to join the Facebook group. In addition, now I'm going to be offering this special bonus here, where I'm not going to be offering this ever in the future, but just for this group alone, 2 bonus modules. One is on beauty and the other is on eye makeup, because I have seen so many, especially women, I'm going to say especially women, because those are the types of patients I've come across who have these issues, wearing or using products that really do damage to their eyes. And I'm not just talking about some mild irritation, like serious damage to their eyes from irritation, from reactions, etc. So I'm really going to be sharing my best tips on how you can avoid some of those issues, and also to deal with aging changes like dark circles under the eyes, bags under the eyes, puffiness of the lids, and wrinkles and creases. So there's 2 bonus modules. And also the other thing I want to mention is if you enroll in the course now, this time around, you will be getting the live course. Just like I'm doing this live today, you will be getting the live course. If you join at a future time, it will be recorded. So that's the other benefit of doing it now, is that it is live and you get to get all of your questions answered, especially during those Q&A sessions. So just a couple more details about the bonuses. So week 4 is the bonus, the Youthful Solution Beyond Cosmetic Surgery. So where you can learn strategies to keep your eyes healthy on the outside and manage things like dark circles, under eye bags, wrinkles, fine lines, so your eyes can look bright and fresh and youthful despite the passage of time without cosmetic surgery. And then the other module that week, and I'm very, very excited about this one because I'm teaming up with one of my colleagues. This is called the Eye Makeup Solution. Actually, I'm probably going to change this name to the Eye Makeup Masterclass. In this module, you're going to learn about healthy and safe makeup habits to keep your eyes from getting irritated, dryness, to prevent dryness, avoid allergies, allergic reactions, styes, and other complications caused by eye makeup and lash extensions. And my co-instructor on this is Dr. Diane Halal Campo. She's an ophthalmologist who's actually also an entrepreneur, and she's launched an entire eye makeup line called 2020, which is phenomenal. So, so she's going to be joining me to do this module. I'm super, super excited to share this information with you all alongside her. So again, this is kind of the overall outline of the course. 4 modules, these are the dates. Don't worry so much about the dates right now, but basically we are starting in 2 weeks. So 2 Mondays from today is when the course will start. And in these 4 weeks, you're going to be equipped with what you need to keep your eyes healthy. And along the way, I'm going to be sprinkling in nutrition and lifestyle tips. So I didn't put that specifically into the description, but that is a given because I'm so, again, very integrative in my approach. I definitely include that as part of my recommendations for eye health. So what is the value of this program? Well, I'm going to ask you, how important are your eyes? I mean, that's the value. It's theoretically, it's priceless, right? If you can use some of these strategies and prevent eye issues going down the line. And the other thing is, many people say, oh, I don't really need that right now because I don't have any of the symptoms you talked about, Dr. Rani. What I tell them is you may not have it now, but most likely some point in your life, you will have some of these issues, if not all of these issues. So again, even though you may not have the problem now, just simply based off of the natural aging changes within the eye, you may have it in the future. So again, I think this course is priceless. If you worked with me directly in my office, basically the initial consultation plus 4 subsequent consultations or follow-up visits, the value of this would be $2,000 if you came in person to do all of this with me. However, because this is an online program, I have repriced it at $799. Now, $799 for all of this. However, because you are taking the webinar with me, and I appreciate the hour and 15 minutes we've spent together so far, I'm actually offering this at a 50% discount for this time around. So it will be $399. You get 50% off if you join this course cohort starting January 16th. Again, it's a 4-week-long course. Everything is recorded. You will get lifetime access to the recordings. Now, because you're still here with me on the webinar, I'm going to give you another incentive. I'm going to give you a fast action bonus. If you sign up by the end of the webinar today, I'm actually going to take another $100 off. So it'll be $299 if you sign up by the time I hit end on the webinar today. So $299, and that basically is a 63% savings. And so how do you do that? If you want to sign up, I'm sorry, this is glitching here. Okay. I'm going to skip that there. It's glitching. Okay, this is how you sign up. I'm going to have my staff put it into the chat as well, the link. But basically, you go to my course portal. This is where I run all of my online courses. I have other online courses as well on macular degeneration and thyroid eye disease and visual snow. So some other types of topics. But this course is available there. You can enroll for $299 if you put in the code AGELESS. So go ahead and click on the link that my staff put in, and you can access the registration page. This is how it's going to look when you click on the link. So you see Ageless Eyes, and then manage the 3 biggest vision challenges that can affect your eyes after age 35, so you can maintain healthy eyesight. If you scroll down on the page, you'll see a lot of information about the course. So all the details of the course, the modules, the descriptions, the dates, it's all there if you wanted to look a little bit further. And then the next thing you would want to do is you want to hit register. And this is what's going to pop up if you hit register. I just want to walk you through this because I know some people may get a little bit confused. So basically, you just have to create an account for the portal, for the course portal. And then you'll see the Ageless Eyes. It's listed at $3.99 for this month only. And you want to hit coupon code because you want to put your coupon code in there if you're doing it by the end of the webinar. So do it right now. You can't just click on the link that I showed on the screen. You actually have to open up another window or another tab, and then click on the link, and then it'll walk you through it. But basically, you enter the coupon code Ageless. I'll give you an example here. So just put in Ageless. It'll take $100 off. It becomes $2.99, and then your payment method here. And once you complete the purchase, then you'll be enrolled in the course, and you'll get a confirmation. So if you do it again in the next couple of minutes before we end, I'm still going to take some questions at the end, so I'm still going to stay on. There are only 100 spots available for the course. And I already have the webinar I'm giving 3 times this week. So I have several hundred people registered already. So my guess is that this course will sell out. So please, you are the first webinar I'm doing this week. So please go ahead and register if you're interested for that price point. Otherwise, if you register, let's say at 8 p.m. tonight, the price is going to go back up to $3.99. I do offer a money back guarantee for the course. So I'm so confident that you'll love the course, and then you'll learn so much that you can share with not just yourself, but with your family as well, that I offer this 5-day money back guarantee. So pay for the course, attend the first module, get those valuable tips and resources. And after that first module, on Monday, January 16th, if you're not satisfied, if you feel like this course isn't right for you, or if you feel like, oh, I don't really need this, I already know what I need to know, then email my staff. And within 5 days of participating, email my staff and say, I'm not satisfied with Ageless Eyes by Dr. Rani. No questions asked. We will refund you the full amount within 7 to 10 business days. So this is an unconditional money back guarantee, but you have to email us within 5 days of that first module for the money back guarantee. Again, here is the code and the link. And so I will now open it up for any Q&A. Does anybody have any other burning questions that you did not get answered? Let's see. I'm going to scroll back and see if there's any questions back here. By the way, today's webinar is, I believe it's recorded. I want to make sure it's recording. Oh my goodness. I really hope it's recorded. I think it is because I hit the button a long time ago. But anyway, the replay will be available. So no worries. You can access the replay and watch it later on. But if you choose to enroll later, you won't get that special price of $2.99. It'll be $3.99. So okay, so I have a question here. Will any exercises for presbyopia be covered in week 2 module? So there are a lot of people out there. If you search on YouTube, there are a lot of people who are going to be promoting eye exercises and teaching you various types of eye exercises. Focus here, focus there, move your eyes in this direction, etc. What I'll tell you is that sometimes those exercises can be helpful for other conditions, but for presbyopia, no. And I know it's horrible to say that they're not helpful, but it's the truth. I don't want to lead you astray. I don't want to give you false hopes that, oh, if you do these exercises, your presbyopia will reverse. It's a fact of eye health is that certain things cannot be reversed, and presbyopia is one of them. Now, I do think that probably in the future, there will be some way to reverse presbyopia. I think that there will probably be, whether it's an eye drop or some other therapy, some other treatment that can help keep the lens flexible rather than for it to get stiff. So I do think that there will be something. Just as of today, there is nothing that can reverse it, such as eye exercises, or even there's no drop that can permanently reverse it or cure presbyopia. So I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. So I hope that was, I know it's probably not what you wanted to hear, but I did have to share that. GLA. Okay, so I have a question about GLA and dry eyes. Yes. So I didn't talk about that today because there's just so much I wanted to cover, but in the course, I do talk about if you're going to choose an eye health supplement, which are the supplements to consider in terms of quality and ingredients. And so that is in the course as well. And for different types of eye conditions, whether it be dry eye or prevention of cataract or prevention of macular degeneration, there are specific types of supplements that I recommend that I will cover in the course. And then I think somebody had a question about Restasis a while back. So Restasis is a prescription eye drop, and it's been on the market for quite some time. And it is used for dry eye when it's related to inflammatory conditions. So it's not for everybody, but it can be effective for some people. Then it's something that you would need to discuss with your eye doctor. And I also have a question about Restylane. Restylane is it's a injectable. It's a cosmetic filler. And so I have my opinions on those types of products that I'll share with you in the beauty solution part of the course, because again, I wasn't planning to go into any of the cosmetic aspects today because I really wanted to focus on the functional aspect. I wanted people to have the information they need to maintain their eye function. And of course, the beauty, youthful issues are all the icing on the cake when it comes to eye health. But that's something that I do cover in the course. Injectables and alternatives to injectables as well. So, okay. So with that, I think I will, so Blair's asking about macular degeneration. So I have a course already published. It's not live. I did it live last year was the last time I did it live. And you can access it through my course portal. And if you're interested, please give my office a call and you can access it that way. We can send you the link to sign up for that. And it's pre-recorded, but it's very, very comprehensive about macular degeneration and prevention strategies. Now, finally, because you've all stayed with me till the end, this is great. I still have so many people still on the line. That's amazing. So I did promise you some gifts at the end. So this is a very small gift to you for New Year's. This dry eye guide, I'm going to have my staff put it into the chat again. But this guide will basically direct you in terms of the various different types of eye drops and what types of drops to use for what type of issue that you're having, as well as some of the other dry eye products that I recommend. So please take a look at that. And it's a free download. And then also one other thing I wanted to mention is that I am about to release a book very soon in a couple of weeks. And the book is called Beyond Carrots, Best Foods for Eye Health A to Z. And you can pre-order my book. If you pre-order my book, you will get it at a significantly reduced price when it first comes out in a couple of weeks in January. And so if you want to get on the pre-order list, please just click that link. I think my staff put it in there right now. Click that link. You can pre-order the book and get access to those special discounts. And in this book, basically, I talk about all the foods we need to keep our eyes healthy, not just carrots, all the foods and nutrients our eyes need to keep all those 40 different working parts in order to provide nutritional support for all aspects of eye health. So, so please take a look at that when it comes out, and I will let you know, because I believe I have all your emails because you joined the webinar. So I will definitely be sending out an email once the book is about to be released, so anyone interested can purchase from Amazon. So with that, I think I will be ending the webinar. Again, I thank you so much. This has been incredible. I really apologize I went so long. I didn't realize it was going to, extend this long, but you had some great questions that I wanted to get answered or to provide answers for. If you need to contact me or my staff, please email us at info@rudranibanikmd.com. That's my full website address. It's my full name, the info email, or you can give us a call. This is the number here, 646-820-2074. You can maybe screenshot this if you want to save that. And if you want to find out about more about my approach and some of the other services I offer, you can visit my website as well, rudranibanikmd.com. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you all. I wish you all the best for the years to come with your eye health. And I wish you all the best for 2023 as well. So thank you.